emergency for the first time in about...
This is Jim, and
Receiving this message. We are Ken Jennings and John Roderick. We speak to you from our present, which we can only assume is your distant past, the turbulent time that was the early 21st century.
Fearing the great cataclysm that will surely befall our civilization, we began this monumental reference of strange and obscure human knowledge. These recordings represent our attempt to compile and preserve wonders and esoterica that would otherwise be lost.
So whether you're listening from an advanced civilization or have just reinvented the technology to decrypt our transmissions, this is our legacy to you.
This is our time capsule. This is the Omnibus. You have accessed entry 326.IS3301. Certificate number 40824. The Defector General.
今天敌军已被我们盟邦共同打倒了，我们当然要严密抓紧他，忠实进行所有的投降条件。
Now, we've been thinking a lot lately about how post-millennial unfriendly Omnibus is.
Oh, well, we try. Like a lot of olds.
You know, we're really trying.
Yeah, we're on fleek.
That is not trying. I mean, that is trying, but
You spill the tea.
it's trying the patience.
I clean up the tea that you spill.
Yeah, I love that for you, bestie. But I was realizing today that maybe the single biggest Gen X marker of Omnibus is just how Soviet it is. It's, do you know how, like, not super relevant to today's youth, the specter of Soviet communism.
Oh, right.
Whereas China, you know,
Right.
our kids' superpower,
Right.
is rarely in the Omnibus. Are there any entries about China?
Well, sure. There's the blast furnaces, Mao's blast furnaces, and I think with that we pretty much covered the topic.
China taken care of.
Well, it's so complicated to talk about China as it's not Marxist.
I guess the Chinese showed up in the end of Titanic 2.
Yeah, right. That's right. They built their own Titanic.
And Mulberry Mania was quite Chinese, although that was a listener suggestion.
They're on the TV all the time.
China?
Yeah, they've got the spy balloons and they own TikTok.
They're looking at us right now.
What else? Oh, everything you buy comes from there.
Well, I was looking this weekend to see what movies are opening because I don't want to see Ant-Man 3.
Don't you? Paul Rudd is America's sweetheart.
I love Paul Rudd. I believe it's the first ever Marvel movie that has the green Rotten Tomatoes splatter.
Oh,
It's currently sitting at 58%. So after decades of Marvel movies kind of sinking through the tomato meter, this is the first splat.
Oh, that's too bad.
But I was looking at, to see what's showing at the downtown movie theaters besides Ant-Man. And basically the new things opening this weekend are Ant-Man and 4 Chinese movies.
Really?
Are you aware of this phenomenon that like most Seattle multiplexes are always showing 2 or 3 Mandarin or Cantonese language movies for an expat Chinese population?
No, I went to the movies not very long ago down in Federal Way, which is for those listeners not from the Pacific Northwest, is a sprawling area.
South even of here.
Yeah, south of the bunker, between Seattle and Tacoma, in an area that's sort of a big, wide peninsula full of housing developments. You can get over there and you realize
you're just picturing warehouses, and then you found a P.F. Chang's, and you're like, "What is happening?"
Well, it's an area as big as Chicago. It goes forever, and so we get down there, and there's just a ginormous mall, but also an industrial area going in every direction. Very expensive sushi restaurants, and we went to the movies, and all of the big posters in the foyer were all for Bollywood films. Bollywood films in Hindi, like not translated. And I went, whoa, I didn't even realize that Federal Way was a Indian expat area.
I mean, there's a lot of South Asians on the east side too, but maybe they're just overwhelmed by the Chinese community there.
And so they
have
make
to,
the trek.
If they want to see a movie in Bengali or something, they got to come all the way to Federal Way.
So you're saying that if you go to a downtown movie theater, 4 of the movies are in a Chinese language?
Let me look right now. Hold on. Yeah, recently there was a movie playing, some big, $100 million Chinese war blockbuster about whatever that Korean War reservoir is. It's about the heroism.
The Chosin
Reservoir, yeah. But it's from the Chinese point of view. So it's about the heroism of the Chinese defeating the NATO and UN colonizers, beating them back from Asian shores at Chosin Reservoir. And this is now playing at the biggest multiplex in Seattle. You can all go see the Korean War be a terrible idea when we should have just let the Chinese have it all the way down to Busan.
Are there subtitles, or is this a thing where you're just like not invited?
That's a good question, because I've never been too tempted to see. I mean, I'd go see one of the Bollywood movies, sure.
Yeah, those are fun.
So this weekend downtown, besides Puss in Boots and the new Ant-Man movie, you can
Puss
see.
in Boots.
For some reason, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is back in.
Except from the Chinese
back
perspective.
in theater, right? Hidden Blade. 2 hours, 8 minutes. During World War II, at the height of China's war of resistance against Japan, a group of courageous citizens these are all these things, where they're very patriotic Chinese movies.
Right.
But now you can go see them in America. It doesn't say that there's English subtitles.
Do you have to sit in the crying baby room and put headphones on to actually hear it in English?
I don't know if it's subtitled at all. You'd think it would say.
Well, that's fascinating.
Then Ping Pong the Triumph is also showing.
Ping Pong the Triumph.
Yeah, not Ping Pong the Triumph, the insult comic dog.
Is it about the game of ping pong, or is it a character named Ping Pong?
That's problematic, John.
Do you want to cut that out?
No, it's fine. No, Ping Pong the Triumph is indeed about the game of ping pong. But I'm unable to find anything else about it.
Well, so
in the early 1990s, when the Chinese men's table tennis team is at a low ebb, head coach Kai Zhenhua is tasked with forming a new team to finally fight to the top at the 1995 World Ping Championship in Tianjin.
It's a sports movie.
And it might be based on a true story. This might be their equivalent of Kurt Russell coaching the Miracle on Ice team.
Yeah, it's Hoosiers.
Yeah. Well, yes, it's Hoosiers. And so this is just this parallel universe of patriotic Chinese movies that you assume exist. It's the world's biggest population and language group. It's a massive propaganda engine. And yet, you might not be aware that theaters in downtown Seattle and Chicago and Los Angeles are showing them.
Are we being colonized as we speak?
This is, yes, how it appears. The next Chosin Reservoir will be in Seattle. Uh-huh. It'll be Green Lake.
At that
Lake
reservoir up there on Capitol Hill that they covered and made a park?
Yeah, or the one in Maple Leaf. Yes, it'll be a Seattle reservoir for sure.
This is not a thing that I worry about at all.
See, because your
I'm still worried about the
your
Soviets.
markers of geopolitical power stopped in 1985, right?
Well, it might be. I don't know how to worry about it because it does not feel like their enormous 1,000,000-person army is very much of a threat to us. To the threat that it poses.
They can get a balloon to North Dakota, but can they get tanks?
Probably
harder,
not.
A little harder.
No matter what the reboot of the Red Dawn movie, where North Korea invaded Western or Eastern Washington. I'm not threatened by the military, and I don't think they'll invade Taiwan. I just have a gut feeling that they won't.
Oh, that must be a relief.
It's good.
To all the Taiwanese people.
It's good for me.
Hey, good news.
I know a lot of Taiwanese people.
John says he has a gut feeling.
And when we sit around and talk about it, I feel like we all agree,
love the soup dumplings.
Probably not.
2, you're probably not going to get invaded.
Probably not. It feels like more of a not worth it to them.
It is weird that they put that on their license plates. Like, Taiwan, we're probably not going to get invaded.
We're okay, probably.
We've got a decade or so.
And I feel like the whole Chinese economy, market economy, what is it? The global wealth sink that they became for a while, that the center can't hold there.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
You think China's crypto, basically?
Yeah, in a way. I mean,
they both hired Matt Damon to do things.
I think a lot of the tech that we sort of let them steal and then voluntarily just offshored all of our tech stuff. Now we're realizing, all the hardware OPSEC that we lost, but it's worse, right? We're not manufacturing our own chips. I think we're starting to realize that's not
chips
not
will
going
come
to last,
back.
and we're going to start making those in Arizona.
Thank you, Joe Brandon.
And
bring back the chips.
And in Taiwan, frankly.
Which, again, will not be mainland China for at least 5 years.
Probably not.
Like, there's a 51% chance it won't.
And this whole Russian fracas in Ukraine.
This really takes a lot of the spotlight off of Chairman Xi.
Well, it does, but also they made the wrong alliance there. And so that, although maybe the decline of Russia is going to, I love this geopolitics stuff. Maybe
pull down China with it. Yeah, it's super fun when they all have ICBMs. That's what I love.
But like China's going to maybe fill the vacuum that Russia formerly occupied globally, but maybe not. Maybe this will expose like a vulnerable flank
their
and
threadbare underbelly.
Yeah, and they're kind of they don't have what it takes. I feel like India is the future.
India will surpass China in population in 20 years or something. And they've already got a lot of tech and cultural advantages. They're already winning the soft power war that we talked about with South Korea. We would all rather watch RRR than Ping Pong 2: The Triumph.
Clearly, what the CIA should be and clearly is doing is pit the two against each other. A China-India war can only benefit the United States.
I mean, it's a bummer for everyone living downwind of the radiation.
Yeah, which is almost everyone in the world.
Which is all the world's biggest population centers. My father-in-law is kind of a China guy. He was the U.S. commercial
ping pong champion.
He was the U.S. ping pong champion. Have you not met Forrest Gump, my father-in-law? No, he was the U.S. commercial attaché to China in the 90s and early 2000s, which is basically the Commerce Department equivalent of the ambassador.
Yeah.
Like the State Department delegation there, of course, led by the ambassador, who's a yo-yo. The Commerce Department delegation is led by the attaché, and that's usually an actual career diplomat and business guy who
with people,
who's actually meeting with the Chamber of Commerce and all the multinationals and the joint ventures.
Paying to build factories.
Exactly. And
so is there stuff that he won't talk about around the Christmas tree?
No, from what I can tell, he kind of turned into one of these old China hands who, you leave somebody there too long and they basically go native. And he's not like, he's not a party member,
right?
But he was very much along the lines of, they're not a problem. It's, the 1,000,000-man army is just none of them have boots, much less tanks. It's all fine.
My girlfriend in the 90s decided she was a prodigy. But she came from a blue-collar family, and her parents were very suspicious of her accomplishment. And they wanted her to just be like a normal Tacoma girl and work at the same car dealership that her father worked at, or managed, I guess.
They were bummed that she was looking at grad school.
So she got into Smith, and they went to a Smith, meet and greet. And of course, all the grown women there who had gone to Smith were wearing like Peter Pan collars with a string of pearls, and they were like, "Hello," and her parents were like, "No, you cannot go to Smith. Like, we can't afford it, and it's not who we are." And they refused to let her go, even though she had a scholarship, and it really affected her. And so she went to the University of Washington, and I think to pay her parents back. And to punish everyone, including me, her boyfriend, she majored in Chinese with no intention to go to China or use her degree in Chinese in any way.
Just annoy her, just annoy her car dealer dad who thought of China as the economic superpower of the future.
Well, that, and also just to take the hardest thing she could think of and excel at it in order to prove to everybody that she could do a thing that, like trumps even going to Smith. And so she majored in Chinese. As far as I know, all she ever wanted to do was be a dog walker, and I think has succeeded in that
I mean, you
line
want to talk to the wealthy Chinese-speaking dogs of Seattle. That's like right. The nicest dogs you ever see in Seattle are being walked by a nice young Chinese couple.
Mm-hmm.
They walk their Shiba or whatever around the lake, and then they get back in their BMW i4 or their Audi, and they zoom off.
So she went to China at a certain point, and I regret she invited me to go, and I regret.
I was going to ask, you've never been to China?
No, my dad went.
I've been once,
but she invited me to go while she was studying there, and how she described the Million Man Army was that China still had all those make work jobs where there's every door, there's somebody there in a uniform to open it. And there are people standing on the street directing traffic where no traffic needs to be directed.
Yeah.
There's someone in a uniform standing outside every door being presumably paid to guard it.
You're saying the Million Man Army is bellhops.
Basically, that was her description.
It's like in the Upper West Side. You see all these uniformed guys who are like, welcome back, Mrs. Vanderkamp.
I mean, there are 7 different kinds of police in Italy, and I have never gotten the feeling that makes Italy a safer place.
That just means you have to pay off like 7 kinds of people.
Hey, it's the Carbonari. Thank God they're here.
I thought you said carbonara for a second.
It's the carbonara.
I was like, no, they do have 7 kinds of. They have more than 7 kinds of pasta.
You know, the way you're supposed to make carbonara, there's no cream in it at all. It's just egg yolks.
Just egg.
Yeah, there's no. You don't put cream in it. Everywhere you go here in Seattle, it's like a milk dish.
It's because it tastes better. Also, carbonara has very recent and kind of iffy origins. So, like, you know, it might have come back from, it might be an American thing, honestly, that came back to Italy. So,
I see.
If you just want to, I mean, Rome's famous for it now, but if you want to, I think if you want to put cream in your carbonara,
Why not?
The carbonara are not going to come arrest you. The Italian pasta police.
You know, I'm somebody that feels like Chicago style deep dish pizza is the perfect form. Yeah,
our kids got yelled at once in Italy because they tried to get. They asked if they could have cheese grated on their pasta, and the waiter is like, "No cheese on vongole."
Oh, really?
Yeah, because vongole, like if you get clam noodles, you do not get cheese on it. He refused to grate it.
I heard somebody say, "I do not prefer cheese on fish." And I was like, ooh, when you put it that way, I don't prefer it either.
The only time cheese and fish are eaten together is on Pepperidge Farm goldfish crackers.
Oh.
The cheddar flavor.
Is there not cheese on a fish wish? On a McDonald's fish sandwich? A McDonald's
fish sandwich does have a delicious slice of American cheese.
Cheese, yeah.
But I would say even most fried fish preparations don't. That's a little unusual.
Cheese. Yeah. I mean, the first time I had pasta in Europe, it was not in Italy, it was in Calais. First day, I ordered some pasta and the waiter came out and cracked a raw egg on it. And I had never...
That'll learn you.
I had never seen such an abomination. I was stunned. And he was like, bon appetit. I was like, well, why did you hurt my wets with your awful egg? Turns out it's great.
If you could think of other fish and cheese concoctions, please let us know.
Fish and cheese.
You don't put dairy on fish because you can't milk a fish.
I'm going to eat me some fish and cheese. You cannot milk a fish. It's the Ken Jennings story.
It's true. It's an ancient Chinese proverb says. Well, the funny thing is this story I was planning on telling today before we started talking about the pasta of Calais.
The pasta of Calais, one of the great Rodin sculptures.
Does largely come to me through Google translated Chinese, I don't want to say propaganda, but web content.
Did you go to that Falun Gong dance show? And that's what you're talking about?
Yes, I always support Falun Gong. What do they call it? What's the dance troupe that's always Tian Shan or whatever it is?
Yeah, I was walking through a mall one time and got assaulted by these very nice ladies who were like, you really need to see this show, and tickets are going fast.
It makes me feel bad as a Mormon that we didn't think about having acrobats.
Yeah.
We're sending men in white short sleeve dress shirts to your door when we could have been sending sword swallowers and jugglers.
People with big flags.
Yes.
So you've never been to see that?
No.
It seems like
I've seen 1,000 bus ads in LA. So that's the same as seeing the show, right?
So you're reading Chinese propaganda translated through Google Translate. Why?
So I can understand any movie playing at the downtown multiplex. I don't know. That's not why. It's because in an interesting case study of which history survives the filter, the aperture of history, and whose story gets told.
The Omnibus Project.
There's an early 20th century Chinese figure named Shi Yu San, who has made kind of a splash off and on online. Like not in any big way where you could actually find a BuzzFeed or Mental Floss listicle about him, and to the degree that his Wikipedia entry is still just a single paragraph. But it's such a delightful paragraph that the internet loves it, and he's now this kind of footnote of a figure. Like even if you can't find anything in English about this guy. You know, in actual historical journal articles, you might, he's a footnote.
Is this a thing where he leans in and a puppet dog says, "We're just normal men.
We're just innocent Chinese men"? No, he's it's like 100th as famous as that.
Uh-huh.
But if you spend enough time on historical oddities on Reddit, you might be like, "Oh yeah,
which I don't."
Shi Yu San.
Are you a Redditor?
I feel like
long enough pause that it gives
absolutely.
me pause.
Well, the funny thing is, you're a 4chan guy being like, "Wait, you understand what the internet's talking about because of Reddit?" Yes, the 1 million times saner place than 4chan.
As an anon, I feel like we really looked down our nose at Reddit, but I didn't realize you were over there.
Reddit's where all the normies go.
I know.
We're just normal men.
I know you steal our memes.
We only steal the least racist and homophobic ones.
The left can't meme is why.
Here's Shi Yu San's Wikipedia entry in its entirety. Why not just start out with
let's
this?
go.
Shi Yu San was a KMT, a Kuomintang general who defected to and subsequently betrayed Feng Yuxiang, Chiang Kai-shek, Wang Jingwei, Shang Zhuiliang, the Chinese Communist Party, and Japan, in that order.
He betrayed them one after another. It was not just one massive betrayal.
Right. Defected to and subsequently betrayed. I mean, subsequently is already there. So I don't know if, I guess in that order is doing extra work, because you might have thought that in one fell swoop, he did something so awful. I don't know, what could you have done in 1930s China that would have simultaneously betrayed Chiang Kai-shek, the Chinese Communist Party, and the Japanese? But no, he did these one at a time.
So he went from one enemy to the next and then betrayed them. He was a double, triple, quadruple secret spy.
Well, that would be more interesting. That's something I miss about the Cold War, is the idea of these Aldrich Ames guys who and the interesting thing to me is, the thing that literature seizes on from Joseph Conrad on is the idea that it's basically impossible to be a triple agent. Yeah. You can't be serving party A, but secretly pretending to serve party B, but at heart actually loyal to party A. And so everything you do in your day job is
actually
authentic, but filtered through what party B thinks you should be doing.
That's impossible.
I think it's like, don't you think it's psychologically impossible? I don't think I could do it. Like I can barely I can't hide Trader Joe's dark chocolate peanut butter cups from my family.
I don't know. It sounds a lot like dating in the 90s.
Well, dating in the 90s, you might have parties A, B, C, or even D.
Right.
But like, you're never going to pretend to party A that you're secretly cheating on her with party B, but you're not.
Would you not? There are times when that would have been the only response, the only proper response. Listen, I'm not cheating on you. I'm just cheating on you in order to fool party D.
They have to think that you and I have this.
I'm only spending one night a week with her in order to confuse our enemy, our mutual enemy.
I'm going to have to rewatch Singles and Reality Bites, but no, I don't think this is real.
That's, you know what? That's the Reddit to the real story.
You had the 4chan 90s.
Well, the big disappointment for me of all that Cold War spycraft stuff is how little it all mattered in the end.
It's just proof that they were just in their little insular world.
Yeah.
Doing their, moving their little tin soldiers and pushing their little pieces of paper.
I mean, do you at any point feel like spycraft is what kept us from nuclear annihilation? It always feels like there was one Russian sub-commander that was like, I'm going to wait for confirmation on that. And almost never...
It's just it's always just a guy at a radar screen who's like, maybe they're birds.
Yeah, I think it might be a cloud. It's not two guys exchanging briefcases in Moscow Station.
Where the fingers are poised on the button. It's like, oh no, we can't. They've seen the whatever dossier. We can no longer fire the missile.
But on the other hand, that is way more fun. I feel like it's just like neighborhood stick fights.
That's a downside. Yeah, it made the Cold War look super fun.
Yeah, right.
Maybe that was not a great idea.
completely inconsequential. Okay, so he has betrayed.
So he's not doing the fun kind of counter-insurgency, counterterrorism.
And it's not a Benedict Arnold thing where he...
We have Benedict Arnold, who just sold out once. Presumably out of conviction. I'm trying to remember this about the Benedict Arnold
I think he was
story.
a loyalist at heart. But
nobody wrote him a check, right?
But it was practical too. I mean, he was there and just sort of felt like, well...
Shi Yusan is just a guy who... he's not a too marshmallow kind of a general. He's always basically like, who won the last battle? Who will give me the biggest treasure chest today?
Can you describe what a two marshmallow general is? That's a coin of phrase I haven't heard.
Are you aware of the child psychology experiment where you...
two marshmallows tomorrow?
You put a marshmallow in front of a kid and say, hey, if you don't eat this when I come back, I'll give you 2 marshmallows, and fully half of all children, as soon as the guy's gone, will just like fidget for a second and then just eat the marshmallow.
I have explained that experiment to my daughter multiple times.
Your daughter has to be a 2 marshmallow child.
No.
Really?
I will put, it's not like I put a marshmallow in front of her. Please, all of you who are ready to cancel me, just sit back down.
Why don't you ease up there, marshmallow dad?
But I say to her repeatedly, like, look, this is maybe one of those situations like the experiment. I didn't realize it was marshmallows. I always thought it was
gummy bears.
No, I thought it was a Werther's chocolate because I'm an old man. Werther's caramel.
When you picture a candy, is it one of those Brax ones with the tied ends?
No, you know what it is? I always think of the Far Side with the monkey and the stool and the banana hanging from the ceiling.
Right.
So I think I say to her, look,
like it's a piece of fruit.
The experiment is they hang a banana from the ceiling.
If the child can jump.
and they say there will be 2 bananas
hanging from the ceiling
in an hour if you can only wait. And she looks and nods at me, but it's because it's always a delayed gratification conversation.
That's what they're studying. Can children, think in 4 dimensions?
Yeah, and she's always like, "Yes, I understand what you're saying, but a banana now."
Right.
And I'm like,
Let me stop you right there.
Right. But 2 bananas. She's like, "But a banana now from the ceiling." She's tall.
Yeah, you that's why you don't hang a banana from the ceiling.
Yeah.
You just put a candy or a marshmallow on a table. Or in your case, something older than a marshmallow.
Yeah.
A Necco wafer.
That's right.
Here are 2 cola-flavored Necco wafers.
And a knee-high soda.
China in the early 20th century is a turbulent place, which explains much of Shi Yusan's shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
Shenanigans?
Mm-hmm. Shenanigans.
I mean, his name's Yusan, which have made him such a beloved figure on Reddit, but not 4chan apparently today.
And a beloved figure in China or no?
No. He's a symbol, like these ping pong movies and these Chosin Reservoir movies. Modern Chinese culture is built on, exhuming examples from the past that still show the correct measure of party loyalty that is appropriate today, not to mention right action and thought. And so when I read about Shi Yusan, it's always just like, you are not going to believe what a snake this guy's. And because it's Google Translate, it's always got lines like, but this boy is a white-eyed wolf who is not familiar with feeding.
So another idiom I'm not aware of.
Yeah, I have learned many possibly false Chinese idioms.
The white-eyed wolf who is afraid of feeding.
Shi Yusan, despite his unremarkable appearance, has some ink on his stomach.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, you can actually, from context, you can be like, okay, that just means, he's got unplumbed depths, or he's got
ink on his stomach?
Unsuspected strengths. I can't explain the metaphor, but I can tell from context clues.
Well, I would think it would mean
mean
that he was bellying up to the negotiating table and signing too many treaties.
See, you're very literal. I feel like I'm trying to explain an idiom to Commander Data. Well, he has ink on his stomach because there was ink on the table. He moved his stomach too close to the table. Captain.
Is this a tattoo reference? What?
I was wondering if it could be tattoo related.
Yeah.
Like, do tough guys in China have ink on their stomach?
Ink on their stomach. Oh, he's got ink. That guy. Watch out for him. He's got ink on his stomach.
Yeah,
he's a white-eyed wolf, not afraid of feeding.
Like a Russian mobster.
I've watched so many Three Kingdoms movies, and I don't know any of these.
I think I have pieced together most of his story, given that Wikipedia just has a short paragraph, because I was just fascinated by how people love this guy just because he's betrayed somewhat between, probably 6 of his masters and possibly 11 different defections and betrayals.
Whoa.
I mean, that takes some doing.
It just seems like he's a sociopath.
Well, as we'll see, I mean, he is quite possibly not the most empathic person in early modern China.
The fourth master, I would think, would say, let's have another interview.
Let's talk about why so now there's a gap in your resume between these two warlords.
Let's get the guys
talk
from
about
sales
that.
in here and we can talk. Get the CFO in the next interview.
Well, eventually his master's trust runs out, as we shall see. But, if there's a place where you can serve and then betray 6 or 7 different masters, it's very difficult in our society. It would be hard to find that many unaligned factions, quite honestly, without going on Reddit or 4chan.
It depends on how many non-compete agreements you sign when you get hired at your first job, right?
Right. But, today, I think we're living in a society where all these, even these multinational corporations all have enough of an interest in common that they will say, you know what? This guy actually sold trade secrets in his last 2 jobs. Even if one time was to us, let's still not hire him.
Yeah.
But it's a more fractious time in China in the 20s and 30s. As you might recall, the Qing dynasty ended in 1912, the last successful royal dynasty in China was the Manchus.
And what brought it to an end?
The Empress Dowager abdicated under heavy pressure.
Heavy pressure? Is that an
Heavy
idiom?
pressure from, just a long-standing nationalist and, I mean, it's 2 things that are going on at once. You've got the Kuomintang of Sun Yat-sen. Sun Yat-sen is a medical student turned, he really never practiced medicine for the most part. He immediately kind of became a political philosopher and statesman whose aim was to bring China into the 20th century. So you've got these reformers, but again, like you can't overthrow the biggest nation on earth just by being a reformer with good slogans. You also need an army, and that's where the nationalists of the Beiyang army come into play. This is kind of the westernized modern army of the Qing dynasty, which under Yuan Shikai decided to throw in its chips with modernization. That's a new metaphor I just created.
Throwing your
chips with modernization. That does not need feeding. And it's basically the strength of the Beiyang army that's able to put enough pressure on the last Qing royals to abdicate. As a result of his success in persuading the last emperor to abdicate, Yuan Shikai, the general, actually becomes the president of the Republic of China. Sun Yat-sen is only president for a matter of months, and then military pressures mean that
coup d'etat.
Yuan Shikai becomes president, and he's not such a great guy.
Weird.
Within 3 years, he is, here's how the end of the story. Within 3 years, he has crowned himself emperor again.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So this is going to be the Republic of China. But you know what a modern republic needs is a new dynastic emperor. Me and all my children,
of course,
should be emperor of the Republic of China forever. Now, this is oversimplifying a bit. What you find when you look at the history is that actually there's a broad set of international globalist interests.
Wait a minute.
I'm not saying this in any anti-Semitic way, but a broad, U.S., Japanese, British, all these colonial interests are like, we think China needs a strong leader and maybe one that works under our thumb. So statesmen on 3 continents are working to prop up this guy as their new man in China.
But it feels like that whole do away with the emperor and modernize, driven by military nationalists, is an attempt on the part of the Chinese to join the colonialism game, right? It seems like their plan would have been then get a navy, then start rolling coal on all of our neighbors.
They're traditionally a 2 marshmallow power.
Yeah, that's right.
They should be playing the long game. I think the problem is there's so much infighting going on right now in the tumult immediately following just the power vacuum caused by the Manchus going away.
That's why we're being colonized right now by Chinese Hollywood.
Because of the power vacuum left when Bob Iger stepped down?
All of our infighting, we're so mad at each other about critical race theory that the Chinese are sneaking in while we're not watching.
Do you think this could unite Twitter if you could just get everybody to, in full on fear of a new yellow peril. We can use Orientalism to end the American polarization.
There is zero that will save Twitter. Like there's nothing. There's nothing that will just its annihilation. That's the only thing I pray for.
As you point out, in hindsight, China should have been modernizing and not re-imperializing.
Yes.
And as you probably could have predicted, the new Emperor Yuan immediately loses support everywhere, not just domestically, but all his foreign allies who were like, yeah, we'll just put our guy on the throne, immediately are like, oh boy, this sucks actually. Sun Yat-sen comes out against the new empire, and it really doesn't matter because within a year of his crowning, Yuan Shikai has abdicated, and then he has died. So now we've got another power vacuum.
Did he fall out a window or get hit with a poison umbrella? How did he die? Seems suspicious.
No, uremia. You're blaming counter spies, and it's actually his kidneys.
You're blaming uremia.
Uremia, your mom's emia. So that leads to yet another power vacuum, and what you get is decades of feuding warlords, regional powers, different kinds of factions. I mean, China by this time obviously is a huge country. It's got 500 million people almost in the early days of the Republic of China, and a quarter of all human beings on Earth. That's actually a bigger percentage than is Chinese today.
Wow.
Probably mostly possibly due to birth control in China, but largely due to the expansion of India.
Lack of birth control in India is what you mean.
Yeah, but also new drought-resistant crops in India, you know, the kind of thing that makes more Indians.
The best laid plans.
So into this turbulent, feuding warlord world comes our man, the Defector General himself, the future Defector General, Shi Yu-san. He was born in 1891 in the far northeasternmost parts of China, like the province that actually touches North Korea, like as far as you can get and still be in China.
He's younger than my grandmother.
Is that right?
Yeah, she was born in 1884, I think.
When did she die?
1971.
Well, she outlived him by quite a bit.
Wow, okay.
Maybe, how many times did your grandma betray the nationalists, the communists, and the Japanese?
I think not 0 times.
Do you think she was betraying Japan well into her 80s?
No, it all happened
like
around...
refusing to buy a Datsun?
I think it was all 1919 was when she was at her most intriguing.
What, was she against the Kaiser?
She was. She was tilting against the Kaiser, as they say.
Shi Yu-san is a little guy. He is 4'8", apparently.
Okay.
So even by the standards
pretty
of
small.
Probably not particularly well-fed rural China in around 1900, he's a little guy.
Yeah.
But he's clever. He appears to have some ink on his stomach, as we say.
Sure.
And at this time, a real mark in his favor is that he's graduated from the 4th grade.
Okay.
This is a time where that's really a sign of that's the Smith College of its day.
He's not afraid of feeding.
Is finishing the 4th grade. So he joins when he's still a teenager, he joins the army of a local warlord called Wu Peifu. And I don't know if I don't want to create the idea that these are all like Mongol horde looking guys. You look at pictures of what a warlord is in early 20th century China, and they're just all wearing epaulets and as much scrambled eggs on their hats and shoulders as you can imagine. Wu Peifu has a picture of George Washington in his office. He's such a fervent nationalist, but he looks like he's on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Big feathers in their caps, bunch of Emperor Norton looking MFs fighting over China.
Now, I hate to derail you, as you know.
Because the communists are going to take over and make everybody dress like a Bond villain, but it hasn't happened yet.
Right. If we were going to have a warlord in our region, how would you picture them? What would a Northwest warlord be if the United States suddenly became like a place where there were like regional warlords?
It's a Hunger Games thing, and you need somebody to run Cascadia.
Yeah.
In your role playing campaign.
Like, could you picture me in that role? Because I could picture myself, but I'd need a lot more local loyalty, right? I don't think
it's very funny to me that you think it's going to be maybe a grunge guy.
Yeah, right. Like somebody that's like
some Seattle guy in Filson.
We're a bunch of losers. Ha ha ha.
It's
Not.
it's going to be some Bellevue tech billionaire.
Lame.
Don't you think that'll be our warlord?
So some sort of Bond villain, you're saying? Somebody in a Nehru jacket that's
exactly right.
sitting crisscross applesauce on a hovering like papasan.
He'll be wearing a Steve Jobs turtleneck.
Oh dear,
probably.
That's the worst.
But maybe
warlord.
he'll be really buff like Bezos is now. Bezos is cut now.
I've noticed that.
Like he's not going to be like a schlubby Larry Ellison type. Actually, Larry Ellison probably does kickboxing or something.
Yeah.
All these guys are probably just getting injections of some kind of a rhinoceros hormone or something.
Yeah, something
that you and I.
It's making their neck all swole.
You and I can't get. So Wu Pei Fu, his first boss, is this big Sergeant Pepper looking guy. First ever Chinese person on the cover of Time magazine. He's got an international reputation.
Oh, so not just your average.
No, he's not
warlord.
just some village guy. Like this guy's on the cover of Time. He's a major player in, the wars that are ravaging China at the time. He eventually will die in 1939 for waiting too long to have a tooth extracted. So take note, kids. If you've got mouth pain, don't just keep putting...
don't put it off.
What's the stuff that makes your mouth not hurt? That canker stuff? I was going to say Anusol, but I think that's the stuff you put on your butt to make it not itch. Whatever the tube of gel is you put on your tooth instead of going to the dentist.
Yeah. What is that?
Vicks Vapor Rub.
No, it's called
Thousand Flushes
Sensodyne. No, that's a company that invents robots.
That's Cyberdyne. Sensodyne is a toothpaste for people whose teeth hurt when they eat ice cream.
Oh. That's a thing? There's a toothpaste that makes it okay to eat ice cream if your teeth hurt?
It doesn't make I don't think it'll make it might make your teeth hurt less during the day. It certainly makes your teeth hurt less when you're brushing them. People with sensitive teeth use Sensodyne because they're delicate little snowflakes.
There's Wu Pei Fu. I like that. I like that outfit.
But within a few years, she has actually joined the army of Feng Yuxiang. He's, being a 4'8" little shrimp, he kind of starts out grooming horses for some detachment somewhere.
That would seem like the worst job for somebody that was 4'8". How are you going to groom a horse?
He grooms the lower half of the horse, and then someone similarly sized on a stool grooms the everything north of the withers. Fetlock, hard to say.
Why did he abandon Wu Pei Fu?
So this does not appear to be a betrayal, or at least if it is, it's not in the historical record. I think he's just moving on up. And by 1924, he's not even 30 yet. He's in his late 20s, and he's a general commanding Feng Yuxiang's 6th Division. Feng Yuxiang is worth a look. He was called the Christian general. Many of Sun Yat-sen, I believe, converted to Christianity. Many of these early westernized Chinese thought leaders had converted to Christianity, and Feng was apparently a very evangelical, a very zealous new Christian. Stories have him mass baptizing his troops with a fire hose.
Does that work? I mean, I'm not a Christian. Does that work?
The theologies would seem to be a little... I can't think of a biblical case of anybody baptizing with a fire hose, but possibly it's because it hasn't been invented yet.
Can you have a priest like further up the hose, like sort of blessing the water as it goes through?
Pre-blessing the water.
Yeah, just like put hands on the hose, and then it's holy by the time it comes out?
I've always thought you should be blessing the food in the kitchen. It's much more efficient.
Bless the beasts and the children.
Bless the HelloFresh when it comes in the door. Lord, please bless this box.
Yeah.
And then anything you make from that box is pre-blessed.
You carried the HelloFresh in the door today. Did you bless it as you handed it off?
I feel like by implication, by me doing an act of Christian goodwill by bringing in the HelloFresh box, I feel like that kind of cleared, whatever kinds of demons might have been clinging to it.
Definitely
from a godless UPS guy.
The ladies in my family do hold you in about that much esteem.
Is that true?
Ken brought the box in? Oh.
Wow.
The food must be purified.
We'll have to make a special dinner now.
Sanctified.
No, the point of saying grace is to inspire gratitude on the part of the eaters. It would ruin the point. But you'd think that there would be the same theological objection to baptizing with a fire hose, that it's unlikely to make much of a change of heart in the baptizee if really he's just thinking,
I'm just a guy here getting hosed.
I'm getting wet. We're just normal men. We're just normal Christians.
What do you mean, normal men?
I guess if you're really an innocent man, you don't need to be baptized. Feng Yuxiang leads what is usually called today the Beijing coup to take over the Kuomintang government and the Chinese. And now Shi Yusan's warlord boss is now the embattled head of China. You think he'd be happy? He hadn't had to betray anybody,
and he was already a general.
He's already risen through the ranks because of all that ink on his stomach.
All the horse grooming.
But during the new battle over the capital, he sells out to one of Feng's enemies, a warlord named Yan Zishan, and refuses to defend the capital. Basically, lets Yan's army ride on in.
So a proper betrayal this time.
This time, a proper betrayal. Unfortunately, the coup is unsuccessful, and Yan is unable to hold the capital, and which leads Shi to say, so long. I'll go back to Feng Yuxiang.
How is Feng Yuxiang going to trust him at this point?
Feng Yuxiang does not trust him. He replaces... I mean, I don't know why you leave this guy leading thousands of men in your army, but apparently things are a little dicey. A lot of these men will have loyalty to their general.
Sure.
And you're going to risk losing 6,000 of your guys if you
throw him down a well.
Because he might take them with him. So what he does is he removes Shi Yusan's aide-de-camp, his right, and replaces him with a loyal confidant of his own, Li Bingzhuan.
I see.
She correctly perceives that this has been done just to keep an eye on him.
Right.
So he immediately has Li Bingzhuan buried alive. Wow.
Listen, at this point, I would throw him down a well. I wouldn't worry about losing the loyalty of his army. He's out of control.
He's a loose cannon.
Speaking as a warlord in waiting.
You would never do such a thing when you take over the Pacific Northwest?
Well, no.
You would never throw Jeff Bezos down a well?
No, I would. I mean, I would look around at my generals and loyalty test them all.
I see.
And the ones that were burying my confidants alive would be the first ones into the breach.
You're just going to throw Jason Finn into the Duwamish?
No, because he'd be loyal.
Okay, he'd be loyal. Now, one of the most interesting things in Shi Yusan's resume happens at this point. While back leading Feng's army, one of Feng's enemies has taken up residence. One of the other warlords has taken up residence in no less a famous site than the Shaolin Temple.
Oh boy!
In the mountains, kind of southeast in the plain. In the mountains southeast of Beijing. I think I have that right.
Out there running up bamboo stalks.
Exactly, doing their wuzhu, flying through the air. Wuzhu, that can't be right. Wuzhia.
Wu-Tang.
Yeah, they're doing all their Wu-Tang. But no, this is historically accurate. The Wu-Tang Clan is not wrong. The Shaolin Temple has been for centuries a site of martial arts, thought, and learning and teaching, to the degree that they've actually kind of gone back and retconned their own Buddhist past to add lore to be like, and here's why the Buddha thinks we should be doing flying cobra palm to our enemies.
It's right there in all the writings of the Buddha.
They just go back and they say, well, there's probably some lore we don't have.
Yeah.
Some sutras we don't have that have more punching.
I mean, we've done the Buddha's
games you wouldn't play.
Yeah, we know kind of where the Buddha would stand on punching.
You think Kung Fu is not one of the games he would play?
It's not really a game, I guess. But no, I don't remember anything I don't remember any situation where the Buddha was endorsing martial arts.
Well, Feng, Shi, back with Feng, tracks down one of Feng's enemies to the Shaolin Temple and lays siege to it, basically burning the place to the ground. 90% of this, priceless Kung Fu landmark is lost.
Oh, not a historic preservationist then.
Including a library of 5,840 just priceless and irreplaceable Buddhist texts.
Drag.
So Shi Yusan, not just an opportunist and a chameleon, but really kind of an anti-education Ron DeSantis book burner type.
I just turned against him.
Yeah, I was for him when he was betraying all these warlords with big feathers and funny hats.
Up until now, I was like, hey, where's this is going to have an 11th hour redemption, but now.
Shortly thereafter, the what's now called the Central Plains War begins in 1929 through 1930. Bunch of different warlords duking it out, mostly against Chiang Kai-shek, who has placed his capital in Nanjing and says, I'm the Chinese government now.
Right.
It's funny that our situation today where multiple countries saying, I'm the Chinese government, actually dates back to the 20s when a bunch of different warlords were saying, hey, I've got Tianjin. No way, I've got Beijing. I'm the Chinese government.
Kind of dates back to 700 AD, but yeah.
There's the Three Kingdoms period too, for sure. During this war, she decides to betray Feng and decides to support Chiang Kai-shek.
Okay. Winning strategy.
But then feeling disrespected by Chiang, I think that's what it is. He thinks that Chiang Kai-shek's going to take it. He switches his army, but then apparently feeling underappreciated or something, decides to actually he begins shelling Chiang Kai-shek's own capital. He turns his artillery on his own capital and begins bombarding Nanjing, apparently just out of pique.
I can relate to that. But do you feel like
do you feel like as a general you would just wake up very cranky and just start shelling your own troops?
I make all kinds of decisions in a state of pique that later on I'm like, maybe that wasn't the right. Maybe I shouldn't have made that decision at that moment.
You will never be a warlord. You will be outmaneuvered by Bezos at every turn.
Maybe I shouldn't have texted that person at 3:00 in the morning based on a false memory. But do you get a sense that she is ambitious for the big chair? Is that what he's doing? Is he really just like waiting for his opportunity?
He doesn't really seem like a guy who's cleverly playing. He's not playing the Game of Thrones with an end strategy. I mean, maybe he is. But it does seem like it's also inconsistent that it just seems like day to day he's like, oh no, now General Wu is winning. Well, I guess I'm a big General Wu fan. Always have been. Time to take down these posters of Warlord Feng.
Right.
A Sun Yat-sen prodigy named Wang Jingwei at this time is setting up an anti-Chiang Kai-shek government in Wuhan. And she immediately, after shelling Nanjing, throws in with this new guy. And in 1930, at the end of the war, actually rejoins Feng Yuxiang, the original guy he already betrayed at least once and twice, I guess, and whose aide de camp he is buried alive in a shallow grave somewhere.
But he's still out there also agitating to be the new captain of China. The Feng is not gone from the scene.
Right. All these warlords are kind of, it's a swirling mess for quite a while.
And who are the Tarleys aligned with at this point?
See, I can't keep track of any of this. There's another Manchurian warlord named Zhang Zhuiling, who, in a shocking twist, actually has an affair with Benito Mussolini's daughter, Edda. You'd think there would be so many geographic impediments involved, right? To one of these guys having an affair with Benito Mussolini's daughter.
I mean, is this all happening at the Cannes Film Festival?
It's happening in Shanghai. Mussolini's daughter has married a diplomat who has been dispatched by the Italian government in the early 30s to China. And apparently she has an eye for the sexy Zhang Zhuiling. At this point, I need to look at a picture of Edda Mussolini.
Well, she's pretty dynamic.
She's a glamorous figure. She looks like she's kind of got a Leni Riefenstahl quality, if that's what you're into.
She's got that 30. That's a 30s portraiture style with the
two lights.
Yeah, and the shadow of yourself in the back. I'm looking at Zhang
Zhuiliang here, and he's a dapper figure.
She lived till 1995.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you think she pined for Shui-Liang her whole life? He lived till 2001.
There you go.
He looks exactly like my the Korean American kid that was my student council president.
These are our times. We're now into our times. But yeah,
this guy died in Honolulu at the age of 100.
Zhang is handsome. He's a handsome.
He is, and he's got a chest full of medals. Which, if you're Mussolini's daughter, I mean, that's got to go a long way. So she does yet another defection, leaves Wang Jingwei, the Wuhan guy, for Zhang Zhuiling with this Manchurian power base. But then he decides that Zhang Zhuiling, this Manchurian guy, does not have a chance. Unlike with Benito Mussolini's daughter, he does not have a chance against Chiang Kai-shek, and she becomes a pro-Chiang nationalist. But Chiang has not forgotten that Xi shelled his own capital in Nanjing.
Right.
And
Hard
when
to forget.
Xi sees that he will never fully be trusted by Chiang, he switches back to Zhang Zuiling. Now, here's evidence of your contention that maybe Xi has his own complex 12-dimensional chess game that he's playing.
Did he now made a play for Etta Mussolini?
Well, no, we know Zhang's going to live to be 100. Oh, no, sorry, that's... Oh, no, this is wrong. He inaccurately hears in the summer of 1931, on July 9th, 1931, he incorrectly hears that Zhang is dead. He does not, like we do, have Wikipedia.
I see.
And know that Zhang is going to die he's not Dr. Manhattan. He doesn't know that Zhang is going to die in a Honolulu hospital in 2001. He hears that Zhang is dead.
He gets a text at 3 a.m.
And he thinks, this is it. This is my play. I can become the big man and maybe make a play for Chiang Kai-shek's seat. He sends his army to fill in what he believes is a power vacuum. That turns out to be a big mistake because Zhang is in fact not dead. Zhang sees what's happening, and Zhang, in fact, teams up with Chiang Kai-shek and annihilates Xi's army. Yeah. At this point, things are looking pretty bleak. All his betrayals have come to naught, as you would hope. If this were an object lesson you were telling your kid, you would say, do not betray your close friend 6 times in a row.
Yes.
In a succession of new close friends.
And my kid would say, a banana right there.
But I just want that banana. We're just innocent men. Everything changes in the fall of 1931 with the Mukden incident.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, when the Japanese sweep in.
No, that is exactly what happens.
Oh, okay.
So the Great Depression is not just for Dust Bowl farmers. It's also really putting a crimp in the Japanese economy in 1931. And of course, they've already got eyes on Asian expansion.
Right.
But now their economy is tanking.
A lot of natural resources in China, as it turns out.
It turns out Manchuria is full of, I mean, today it's probably vanadium, but at the time, it's just, but then it's probably just like, they've got copper and glass or something,
right.
You know?
Dragon glass.
So Japan wants Manchuria to the degree that they set up a famous false flag incident. They've got the franchise to run railway lines through Manchuria.
As the Chinese do now in Africa.
Exactly. So maybe so do you think the Chinese are going to do this? Blow up their own tracks?
I feel like the Chinese might have learned something
Chinese
here.
have learned a page here. The Japanese blow up their own railroad, wave their hands in the air and say, just like we did
just don't care.
Just like we did with the Nord Stream pipeline.
Right.
A couple months ago.
It was the French.
Oh, you think it was the French?
It's always the French.
Wow, I would not have picked. I think it's maybe I don't know.
The Dolphins.
It's the Dolphins or the Israelis.
The Dolphins.
Or
Come on.
It's an Israeli Dolphin Coalition.
Yep. I know that those exist.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Are they putting like bombs on them? I hope not.
No. But I heard a report from someone that swam with the dolphins in Israel. And
that doesn't mean it's a military coalition. That means it's a resort.
Come on. Let me have my fantasies. You have yours.
This is still called the September 18th incident in China. We call it the Mukden incident. But immediately it's a pretext for a Japanese invasion, and Japanese army comes.
Do people know that this is a fake at the time?
I think yes. I've seen depiction. Everything I know about this comes from the Tintin book where it happens.
Right.
And even in the Tintin book, it shows Japanese plotters sneaking in and blowing up their own railway.
It's the burning of the Reichstag of the Japanese invasion of Manchuria.
So it's not like in the 60s some documents come out and the Japanese were like, "We're very sorry for blowing up your train." I think it's pretty clear what's going on. And
it's the sinking of the Maine. Although no.
I think the Maine could have been. No, the Maine's just an accident.
The
Maine's just an accident, right? They're just innocent men. You don't even have to. It doesn't even have to make sense.
No, it didn't make sense in the first place.
No, it did not. And they set up a puppet government in Manchuria. They call it Manchukuo. They call this new province. And in fact, if you've seen Bertolucci's Last Emperor movie, they set up the cute little kid who likes to run through the yellow banners at the beginning of The Last Emperor. The titular Last Emperor. He's now a very serious spectacles wearing guy in his 20s, and they set him up as their puppet leader. Can
recommend that movie.
It's long,
but it's a good movie.
There's actually a longer director's cut that I like better. So if you're a Last Emperor fan who would like to see 3.5 hours of it,
Not sure.
I think you would enjoy it.
Did you watch the final cut of Apocalypse Now? And if so, what do you feel about it?
I don't prefer it.
Okay.
But I'm glad I saw it. I like the plantation stuff with the woman is pretty interesting.
No, it isn't.
Sure.
No, I'm not talking about the Ridieu cut. I'm talking about there's another cut where he went back and said, no, Ridieu was bad. And I'm going to do now a third cut where I cut out the plantation scene.
Oh, no, I've only seen that. So there's a version that has the other stuff, but not the plantation stuff.
I think, yes.
Harrison Ford is just, he's in a million movies where this happens, where nobody can decide on what the final cut is. So what's interesting about this Japanese invasion is it leads to a truce, the Tonggu Truce in 1933, which actually makes the Great Wall of China an international border again.
Wow. I didn't know that.
The Japanese say we will not cross the Great Wall of China. But in practice, they are totally scheming and swarming.
Oh, but it's the other way. No, wait. Are they?
No, they are on the far side.
Okay,
they are the barbarians in this case.
I see.
But they are still planning further incursions. At this point, Chiang Kai-shek has had enough with Xi. He has never forgiven him for turning his guns around and bombing his own capital city, which I think is fair enough.
Right, I sympathize.
He sends a spy named Chen Gongshu, who is a faithful performer of hundreds of assassinations at this point.
Okay.
Here's
our guy.
Into Shi Yusan's camp in Tianjin to kill him. Now, this is a story that only came out in Chen's memoir, which I'm sure came out in the communist period and is very, pro-China, anti-traitors to the cause. I think at some point Chen must have been like, you know what, I'm a good Marxist. I'm a good party member, and he was one of the good. Because at some point the Chinese government had to decide after the Civil War who were the good warlords and who were the bad warlords in history.
Right.
And this Chen guy must have made the cut. So this story may be totally untrue, but he writes a very dramatic story of him being sent into Tianjin to mastermind Xi's assassination.
So Xi was considered by the Chinese or by the Maoists. Yes. He was a baddie.
He will end this story being a baddie, despite his brief. As with all the other players, he was
against Chiang Kai-shek.
Yes, and he throws in with the communists, as we'll see, but he does not stay with the communists. And the worst thing he does, we'll see, is selling out to Japan. At that point, pretty much all the, in Taiwan and in Beijing alike, he is persona non grata. So it's very difficult to track down Xi. I think he knows he is, at this point, the friend of no one. He keeps multiple homes, but he spends much of his time. Tianjin was one of those cities that had been divided into various foreign concessions. There's a French district where they can do trade, and there's a American and a British. There's like 9 different ones. And even though the Japanese have swept into Manchuria, there's still a Japanese concession there, and that's where Xi is hanging out because he knows his life is not worth a plug yuan,
right,
as it were. And so he's guarded by Japanese military police at all times. He, when he gets in a car, nobody in his staff knows where he's going. He gets in and then tells the driver, "Hey, head west." And then when he sees nobody's following him, he's like, "Actually, just kidding, go east."
I thought you were going to say when he gets in a car, nobody wants to start the motor, so he just sits there.
Hey, do you want to start? I'll be out in a second. I forgot something.
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday.
But Chen Gongshu, the great assassin, has managed to turn 2 members of Xi's household against him and into the plot. They figure with his, him being so hard to hit, it's going to have to be poison, which means they're going to have to get the chef.
Wow.
So they get Lao Chu, his household chef, to agree to take out Xi.
What a great bad guy name. The chef. Le chef.
They always call him Old Chu. Yeah, Le chef. That's French for the chef. He's cooking up some cheating at the baccarat table. Uh-huh. No, this guy's called Old Chu in Chen's book.
Okay.
So Old Chu comes out of the kitchen bearing the hot pot into which he has poured the colorless, odorless, lethal poison.
Old Brown Chu.
That will take out somebody save me from this zoo. That's going to take out the defector general, but he's trembling. He's not a good agent.
Come on,
and he's trembling so much he drops the hot pot.
Jeez,
this is how I know the memoir is fake because you've seen this scene in so many movies.
Yeah,
and she is like, "What are you so nervous about, Old Chu?" And he's like, "Nothing, but you spilled my hot pot, old Chu. And she says, well, why don't you go ahead and why don't you taste the soup? Just go ahead and drink some of that hot pot off the floor.
The villainy.
And Chu won't do it. And finally she is like, I see what's going on here. And just as he's about to turn, one of the other household members who is disloyal to Shi pulls a gun on him, but one of Shi's retainers is into martial arts and in Chen's book kicks the gun away.
Whoa! Uses the Shaolin powers.
Uses the double cobra touch.
Even though he burned the library of the Shaolin Temple,
his life is saved by kung fu.
Wow.
It's so.
What is happening in this story?
He's so unworthy, honestly. In 1937, Japan does not abide by the truce, and
That's in the record. That's in the historical record.
Yes.
In 1937, the Japanese Empire was not abiding the treaties.
Right. And this is not something I got from Chen's iffy memoir. I think we all know that Japan did not abide by their Tonggu truce. They sweep into China. As we know, they will commit all kinds of atrocities eventually by the time the war is out. Shi, at this point, is leading the guerrilla resistance to the Japanese in Hebei province around Beijing. The Chinese Communist Party is now a player, and they're dueling with the nationalists and the Japanese. She pretends to cooperate with the communists, and then is ordered by Chiang Kai-shek to sell them out, and does so. So he's now betrayed pretty much everybody once.
He sells the communists out to
Chiang Kai-shek.
To Chiang Kai-shek.
Yes.
Okay.
And then in 1940, he sees the war is not going well. He's seen that the writing is he believes that the writing is not on the wall for the communists, sells them out to the nationalists, and then sees the Japanese winning and thinks, uh-oh. And he signs what he calls the Common Anti-Communist Agreement with the Japanese, saying, hey, look, global communism is such a threat here. I'm actually going to have to make common cause with the Japanese to make sure that Mao does not take over.
Yeah, it's a Soviet non-aggression pact.
Exactly. And at this point, he has burned literally all his bridges because now he is fighting for the Japanese against both the nationalists and the communists.
Wow. Hard to imagine his army sticking with him through all this. He must have been a very charismatic, small person.
4'8", fourth grade education, but for whatever reason,
rakish mustache. I mean, what?
Nobody. No, when you look at him in a picture, he just he looks like the most. His Wikipedia portrait is the most untrustworthy looking movie spy guy you can imagine.
How is he portrayed in Tintin?
He actually kind of looks like some of the anti-Japanese caricatures in Tintin. At this point, Chiang Kai-shek has had enough. His previous attempt has failed, but he's not going to leave it to hot pot this time. He gets to somebody he knows Shi will trust. Gao Shuzhen, whom Shi has called his sworn brother, has been fighting with him fighting alongside him for decades. Cheng sends in Gao to have a meeting with Shi, and let me see. Do I have the page up? There's a very funny description of it about how they enjoy a ha-ha.
Oh, ha-ha.
So Shi welcomes Gao with a greeting, and then as soon as she comes in the door, Gao's men just jump on him, put a hemp rope around his neck, and toss him in a basement.
The betrayer is betrayed
The betrayer is finally betrayed.
His longtime ally.
By a Judas type. But, in these stories, Gao Shuzhen is the hero because he got rid of this characterless opportunist.
Although ultimately purged by students in
probably
1960.
Killed by a 14-year-old in the Cultural Revolution. That's a good question. I don't know what happened to Gao Shuzhen. Is he in the cultural record? He does have a Wikipedia. He has a much lengthier Wikipedia entry than Shi.
How long does he last?
1972.
There you go.
Dies in Beijing. It is possible that he was not a reliable element.
Purged. We should have a stamp here that says purged, and we should just stamp it down.
Once again, the purger becomes the purgee. And in a final irony, in the wee hours of the next morning, Shi Yusan, the defector general, is dragged out with a rope around his neck. A shallow hole is dug by the Yellow River.
Oh, that's the big insult, too.
And he is tossed into it alive and had the dirt poured over his head.
Oh, buried alive himself.
Buried alive himself to save the cost of a coffin.
Wow. And a shallow hole. Ultimate indignity. We're not even going to cover you with 6 feet of dirt.
I thought Shallow Hal was the ultimate indignity.
For our good friend Jack Black.
For our generation. I mean, the funny irony is that, today, more people would probably be mad at him for burning down the Shaolin monks than for being the most, the defector who's out there hustling constantly, always looking for somebody new to betray, can't get enough. In 1982, Jet Li's first movie came out, Shaolin Shi, which kind of cemented in the modern popular imagination this idea of a martial arts monastery. And it basically changed what's left of the Shaolin Monastery for good. Millions of tourists visited in subsequent years. And now it's kind of run by the Chinese Communist Party as a tourist attraction,
right,
pretending to be a monastery. It's Colonial Williamsburg, but with more secret tiger punch.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Does all of the betrayal and all of the turnover committed by Shi, is it just Smiley's people, and in the end it had no effect on history, or did his constant undermining of the various pretenders to the big chair, to the Game of Thrones, did it actually have a long-term effect of destabilizing, weakening China such that it made China vulnerable to Japanese invasion? Did he play a crucial role, or is he just a figure that this would have all been a chaotic period anyway, and he's just somebody that's making trouble? Big trouble in Little China, or in this case, little trouble in Big China.
Exactly. The nationalists are going to get kicked out to Little China in a few years. As you know,
expert on China.
I'm not a historian. This is not my period.
But you have the nerve to make the final.
But I am a confident, middle-aged white guy, so I'll take a swing at this question.
Of course. God bless us.
It certainly seems like, with an army of thousands at his disposal, the kind of havoc he wreaks, turning his artillery on his own capital and, assassinating his own second in command because he doesn't trust his military superiors, and then selling out to the Japanese at the worst possible time. I mean, it does seem like somebody like that who just every time the balance of power shifts, immediately shifts, 5,000 to 10,000 men to the new king of the mountain. It does seem like that's the kind of thing that does throw instability, just magnifies instability in a situation.
Like, who of all of those claimants of China, leading China, could have stood up to the Imperial Japanese in 1931? That's
the thing. I mean, he eventually ends up selling out to the Japanese, who were going to take over anyway.
But did they take over because of this political instability and disarray that could have been avoided if it had just been, they all seemed so unstable anyway.
Yeah, my priors about Japan is that they're so expansionist, they wouldn't have just been happy with Manchuria. They also would have thought, what we should control? The entire Chinese coast.
Well, everything. Right. The greater prosperity sphere.
Right. So I don't think they would have stayed on their side of the Great Wall if Xi had not been making trouble. But I mean, the party that ends up winning, Mao's Communists, is actually the party to whom he gives the least convincing defection.
Right.
He only lasts for a matter of months before selling them out to Chiang Kai-shek. Yeah, I've switched back. I think he's just little. He's just a normal man.
Yeah, he's an innocent man. And that concludes The Defector General, Entry 326.IS3301. Certificate number 40824 in the omnibus. Futurelings, in the unlikely event that social media still exists in your era, it is almost 100% certain that it is controlled by the Chinese government.
Put up a picture of Winnie the Pooh and see if they delete it.
Is Winnie the Pooh anti-Chinese now? Is he a symbol?
He's verboten. I think some of Xi Jinping's enemies have said that he looks like Winnie the Pooh, and so students will post pictures of Winnie the Pooh just to see how quickly they get scrubbed.
Wow, it's like changing your Twitter handle to Elon Musk.
But does he look like Winnie the Pooh? I look at pictures and I don't really see it.
This might be a cultural
He wears
thing.
pants.
Right? Does he like honey?
I mean, we all like honey, right?
Do not go on social media. It is a barren wasteland. The only place you should go if you are a social media person is to Facebook, the worst place, but to hang out with the best people. And those people are on the Futureling site on Facebook. Ken is still funny on Twitter, despite all discouragement of the form. And he's also like regularly attacked there by James Holzhauer and Brad Rutter. And that's funny.
I had it coming,
if you're
probably
into it. That's at Ken Jennings. I'm at John Roderick, and I'm still, what am I doing there? God.
You're there more. I see you replying away. You're a reply guy again.
I need to stop.
Get back to 4chan where you belong.
I can't stand it there either. 4chan is so awful. I even though I mentioned it, or Ken mentioned it a few times on this show, do not go there. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. It always was terrible.
But it's worse now?
It's terrible and boring now. At least before, it was terrible. Now it's not even terrible. It's just boring. You can email us it's boring but awful. It's terrible.
It's terrible on two axes.
It's awful. Don't go there.
You want something to be awful and interesting.
Yes.
Like
me.
Like the Apocalypse Now recut.
Yeah. Awful and interesting. You can be one or the other, but you should be both. Email us at theomnibusproject@gmail.com. Ken will sometimes share those emails with me if they are sufficiently complimentary. He hides all the mean ones from me, thank goodness.
I sent you the nice ones.
Yeah, send me the nice ones now. You can, like I say, hang out with Futurelings, various places. You can go on our Patreon page and send messages there. Am I right in saying that? People send us messages to our Patreon
Yes.
mail?
And I think Patreon then sends us an email. It's very inefficient.
I see.
And then Gmail prints them out.
Yes.
And sends a rider to my house.
Yeah, carrying a 3-ring binder.
That's correct.
You can mail us actual things, including a 3-ring binder. I'm looking at a 3-ring binder my daughter made here of printed out timelines of all the U.S. presidents.
It was open on the table when I got here. She must have been studying the presidents.
She likes to know all the presidents in order to have one more thing up on everyone else. So if someone's like, oh, yeah, in 1837, and she's like, oh, do you mean the halfway through the presidency of, I have no idea. Who was president in 1837, Ken?
In 1837?
Yes.
I have no idea.
Well, here's the binder right here.
I'm off duty. Probably Andrew Jackson.
Let's see, we'll flip through here. It might be Andrew Jackson. That's not a bad guess.
No, I think it's Andrew Jackson's earlier than that.
1837. This is all organized here. Martin Van Buren.
Off by one.
Martin Van Buren.
Well, actually, doesn't that mean does that mean Jackson was president until March 1837?
It does.
So do I get half credit?
I think you do.
Okay.
I think you do. All right. So, yeah, it could be Jackson or Van Buren.
Up until March.
She likes to have that ability right at her fingertips so that...
She's still going to get beaten out in life by people who can't name a single president but can wait for that second banana.
I know.
Or marshmallow.
I'm trying so hard. It's nice to be able to do both. Know the president in 1837 and wait for that second banana.
Get yourself a daughter who can do both.
Speaking of second bananas... Speaking as the second banana...
I thought I was going to be the second banana.
Please go to our Patreon and support the show at patreon.com/omnibusproject. It gives you access to our monthly addenda show, which is hilarious and awesome.
And timely.
That's right. The addenda show comes out very shortly after we record it, unlike some of these episodes, which air literally years later.
We are about to do the addenda that came out a month ago as you're listening to this, if that doesn't blow your mind.
Whoa.
It's crazy.
And so I think that's everything I had to say.
Did you do the P.O. Box?
Yes, send us things. P.O. Box 55, including the 3-ring binder at P.O. Box 55744, Shoreline, Washington, 98155.
I ask only because I just opened the mail, which was just I opened this nondescript. What color is this? Blue? Blue-green?
That's blue.
Blue.
Do you have blue-green color blindness? Because that seems very blue to me.
I don't think that's not, to me, that's a slightly greenish blue.
I see no green in it at all. Oh, wait.
Let's hold it up to something.
It's got gray. It's blue-gray. That's green. That's pink.
That's blue. This is always a good thing to do in an audio.
I think it's blue-gray. That's what I say.
Okay, it just became blue-gray. This folder, only to open my eyes and wonder, it's a note from our friend Adam from Albuquerque.
Who,
about a year ago, asked if he could make ledger art out of the notes of our show on Native American ledger art.
Whoa.
Do you remember this?
I do. It was a double meta.
Adam is a member of the, I hope I'm saying this right, Walatoa-Jemez Pueblo people. The majority of his mother's family actually lives there, I presume on whatever that tribal land is near Albuquerque. He has spent a year trying to use all the media you listed in your show about ledger art that might be used. He found that maybe one of the difficulties was that the ink was not water resistant, but here is the resulting art.
Phenomenal.
What were show notes is now a beautiful depiction of the tribal dance of the Walatoa-Jemez people.
Fantastic.
Isn't that great?
Oh,
multimedia.
Wow. This is the type of conversation starter that when we put it up on the wall of our studio, the almost no people that ever come down here, if someone were to come here, if we were to ever have a party, it would take me 40 minutes to explain what was happening here. 40 blissful minutes.
And I think I had forgotten, but Adam is also the person who was kind of posting funny omnibus coloring book pages on the Facebook page.
Right.
And he has actually sent us the original art of these pages.
That's quite good. You looked really distinguished in that.
These must be from photos of us because they're very lifelike. But it does also scream like grocery store coloring book.
But it does. I would say that looks like me, and a lot of illustrations don't.
Imagine a vulture eating a dead cow on a waterbed, stated Ken.
Yeah.
He's actually put these through a typewriter.
A typewriter?
Most animals, too small to ride on. Can't ride on a crawfish, said Ken.
Uh-huh.
Here's me dressed up as Q from Star Trek.
Uh-huh.
Here's you saying, I know how big a moose is, replied
yes,
John.
True. I'm gesturing at a moose.
This is amazing work. Thank you so much, Adam.
Adam, you're the best.
We'll put these up on the photo blog on our Patreon for those who are, of means and can check that out.
Well, we should put them up there.
Others less affluent among you will have to imagine them.
But the people that are there and supporting can actually print them off, color them, and then put them on the Facebook page and show one another.
That's true.
Their colorings.
And the Facebookers, I believe, have seen these. He's posted those.
Oh, he has.
Before. Yeah.
Have they printed them off and colored them? If they haven't, what is going on over there?
Yeah, please, if you enjoy coloring things, print these out from either the Facebook or the Patreon and send us colored photos, and we'll put them up on the fridge. If you stay inside the lines. Listeners, from our vantage point in your distant past, we have no idea how long our civilization survived. We hope and pray that the catastrophe we fear may never come. If the worst comes soon, this recording, like all our recordings, may be our final word. But if Providence allows, we hope to be back with you soon for another entry in the Omnibus.